Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, maybe good morning, depending on where you are joining from. I am Ritu Basine, she, her, hers. I'm president and founder of Basine Consulting Inc., BCI for short, which is a diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm that's focused on building more inclusive, authentic, and empowered workplaces. And it is my pleasure to be your MC for this evening, the host of the launch party for Melinda Briana Epler's new book, How to Be an Ally: Actions You Can Take for a Stronger, Happier Workplace. Before we get started, I wanted to mention that on screen we have our ASL interpreters, Kalina and Jewel. Thanks so much to Interpreters Now. I also wanted to mention that this is being live captioned by Maggie Rumpfeld of White Coat Captioning, and you can turn on your captioning by clicking on the closed caption button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I also wanted to mention that if you cannot see me, you're blind or have low vision or can't see the screen, I wanted to let you know that I am a brown woman. My parents are from India. I have long black hair and beautiful brown skin. I lastly, finally wanted to mention that I am joining you today from my home in Toronto, Canada. And I wanted to take a moment to just honor the fact that Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas, a treaty that brought these communities together to serve and to honor and to protect these lands. And we have all been invited into this treaty with the same spirit. And I share this with you as part of my personal commitment to truth and reconciliation and healing with the Indigenous peoples of this land we now know to be Canada. I hope that all of the work that I do, all of my actions are in furtherance of this, including my participation in this launch party this evening. And so I hold all of these words very near and dear to my heart. They're very important words. And with this being said, I wanted to say welcome to all of you, but also let me introduce to you the woman of the hour, the woman of the day, the woman of this week, this moment, Melinda Briana Epler. I know you all must know her. I'm seeing rounds of, and let's give a big clap. Let's just clap it up. Yes. Let's clap it up. This is your day, Melinda. So, okay, let me just take a pause here. And I just want to say a few things about you professionally. I'm sure that everyone here knows who you are. As you know, Melinda is known for being a prominent TED speaker. I just looked this up just earlier this afternoon, 2.5 million hits almost on your TED talk on allyship, which is amazing. You'll know Melinda as being a DEI expert. You'll know her as a global speaker, storyteller, advocate for change. She has been in the innovation and strategy game for 25 years. But most of all, Melinda is a beautiful human being. She's beautiful inside and out. She is kind. She is empathetic. She is authentic. She is a beautiful soul. And now she's also officially an author. So it is an honor to work with her, to know her, to introduce her, and to join her today for this launch event. So hi, Melinda.
Hello. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Oh, bless.
Thank you. Yes. Good.
Well, I was going to say, how are you feeling? How are you doing in this moment?
I'm really excited. I'm excited. There's a lot of you all actually have tweeted or posted about receiving your book today, which is really cool. And I'm excited for this book to be out there in the world, creating change for all of us.
Yeah. Well, it's so exciting that as we are speaking, more and more people are joining, which is so great. I wanted to thank you all for joining us for this very special virtual event. We're so delighted that you could join us. And in a moment, we'll start digging in. I just wanted to highlight that For the next 90 minutes, you're in for a real treat. We're going to hear Melinda share about her journey with the book. I will ask her some questions to learn more about her experiences. We would love to have you ask questions as well and share your comments, which you'll be able to do towards the end of our discussion today. We will have a panel discussion to learn more about the concept of allyship. There will be a toast. And so if you do not already have a beverage of choice near you, I pre-poured my kombucha in a wine glass, everyone. Very exciting. You'll want to get your beverage of choice ready for a toast for this evening. We will be doing that. Lots to talk about, lots to share as it relates to Melinda's book. So please prepare yourselves for a really fun event and fun evening. So on that note, Melinda, I think it's such a special day for you. I know that so many people are wanting to hear from you what this day means to you, what this book means to you, what this moment is all about. So why don't I turn the floor over to you to say a few things about this experience in this moment?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's so awesome to see you all. And some of us haven't seen each other in person for a year and a half, 2 years. There's some new faces and a lot of familiar faces that have been on this journey with me for a long time. So I appreciate you all being here. And I just want to say a few words about, if you want to see just me and the interpreters, then go up to the view and change that. So it's up to you which view you want. If you want to see everybody, if you just want to see the few people spotlighted, there's different ways to view. So thank you for joining me here. And thank you, Ritu, also for spending the day with me. First on Leading with Empathy and Allyship, the show earlier today where she interviewed me, and now tonight as well. And thank you to my friends, Tiffany and Rachel, who will be speaking a little bit later, and to my husband, Wayne Sutton here as well, who's also going to be speaking, and he's just been with me on this journey the whole way. I am officially a published author. Super excited. And yes, I know other people have held it up. If you all have it, actually, will you just do me a favor and just do that? And then will somebody on the team take a screenshot? If you haven't, I know I see Natalia running into the other room to get it. There, look, Araya or Christina, would you take a screenshot? Yeah, awesome. Thank you all. And I know that some of you all have it coming. It's definitely, thank you. It's been a journey of launching a book during a pandemic as well, where there's supply chain issues in the publishing industry. And so, hopefully if you've ordered it, you'll get it soon. And just know that we live in a world with paper shortages and labor shortages and all kinds of things happening in the supply chain. So just roll with it like we are, and appreciate you. This has been a lifetime journey in a lot of ways. I spent about 2.5 years writing the book. Most of the book was written last year during the pandemic, and it actually was really difficult to write during that time. And so it feels really especially important also, just given all that we went through, that we have continuously gone through, and George Floyd's murder, and so many murders, and so much work that needs to be done. So I'm really glad that this book is coming out now. And the goal is to have this book out there in the world, providing guidance, answering questions, motivating people to be better humans and for each other, and to create change while I sleep, while we all sleep. So just really briefly, for those of you who don't know how to be an ally, it takes readers along a journey through 7 different deep ways to be better allies in our workplaces, so that they can be happier, safer, healthier, happier, and more equitable for all of us. And along the way, I do tell a bit of my own story, my own journey in becoming an ally. And we might dive into that a little bit, Ritu and I, in a bit. The first time Wayne and I put together an allies panel was in 2015. back when at our first Tech Inclusion conference, and several of you all were there. It was awkward. It was new. It was weird, but we did it. And since then, we were also kind of working on that concept of allyship. What is it? What does it mean? People have stepped up as allies for a long time, but this concept is new to a lot of people, and it was to me at that time. Since then, though, I've kind of gone down this journey of allyship and really learning what it means, and spoken on many stages, many executive tables, teaching allyship globally, and worked with several hundred companies at this point on building diversity, equity, and inclusion and allyship, and then thousands of individuals through coaching, through speaking, and workshops. So yes, in 2018, I gave a TED Talk on what I've learned over the years around allyship, and I really felt that using that platform at TED, I had an obligation to the world to create a talk that would answer questions and motivate people to action. And so I saw so many people that were looking for what to do, and because they wanted to do something different, they wanted to create change and not knowing how to do that. And so wanted to really simplify it and make it easier and tangible and then actionable as well. And so to my surprise, it actually resonated with millions of people. And I've continued to receive requests for more information, requests for, how can we help really step up and help somebody thrive? How can we be better leaders, better managers, better colleagues, better neighbors? And how can we interrupt microaggressions and stereotypes and biases, and then those bigger systemic inequities that keep people in our lives from thriving? And how can we do that better? And so I wrote the book to answer those questions. It's an evolution of my TED Talk. It includes experience from years of doing this work. And, Carol Shields, a writer, says that you should write the book that you want to read, the one you can't find. And I really felt that this was the book I needed a few years ago. And in writing it, I learned so much. And there were so many people that were part of this, which I will talk about a little bit later. And I've spent my life really learning from people whose identities are different from mine, especially people with disabilities, people who are Indigenous, Black, Latinx, Arab, Asian, LGBTQIA+, so that I could really expand my own knowledge and worldview and take action. So over the years, the last few years, I've learned from thousands of people what allyship means for them. We did it. We've released a state of allyship report, which really goes deep into some research that we did around what allyship means for them. Also, intimately interviewed about 50 different people as research for the book, and then conducted a literature of more than 300 articles and books. Did a lot of reading and a lot of searching, and then so many colleagues, several of whom are here, provided me with invaluable feedback, including Ritu actually, so also acknowledging that this is a journey. Allyship is a journey, and while I've dedicated my life and my work to this, my knowledge isn't perfect, and I'm not a perfect human, and nobody's a perfect ally. We all have work to do. We all have room to grow, and it's a continuous journey. So, and also the language and understanding is constantly evolving too. So there's just always more room to learn. And so I really wrote this book for all of us to learn about each other, to build empathy for each other, and to take action for each other. The book is dedicated to my paternal grandfather, Joe, who shared a century of wisdom with me before passing away a few years ago at the age of 104. Yeah, I have some good genes. And my maternal grandmother, Helen, who shared her compassion with me under the Albuquerque sun. And also Wayne Sutton, who's my greatest ally. And he supported me throughout the making of this book in so many ways, little ways, big ways. Yeah. We've learned a lot from each other. I've learned a lot from Wayne and from our interracial relationship. Y'all don't know the stories that we tell each other, the conversations that we have together over dinner, over breakfast, over motorcycle rides. There's an incredible privilege that we have to be doing this work together. And also, we were talking last night that the privilege of each of us having worked in diversity, equity, and inclusion means those conversations are really deep and hard sometimes, and powerful, and makes us both better humans, stronger humans, and better allies. So yeah, what an incredible privilege we have to be doing this work together, and I appreciate you. Yeah, thank you all again for being here and sharing this moment with me. And I'm going to pass it off again to Ritu.
So, Melinda, as you take a breath, I invite you to take a look at the chat board and just take in all of the love that is on the board. And I'm sure there are wet eyes across the group here in reading these comments and listening to your words and your dedication as well. Just take a moment to take in all of this love. You are so loved. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. You just emanate so much warmth and empathy and compassion for others. And you can see all that love coming back at you. So what a blessing, what a gift, and congratulations. So in a moment, we are actually going to turn to a panel discussion that Melinda will be leading on the concept of allyship. But I just want to take a few moments now to spend some time chatting with Melinda a little bit about her journey in the book and her personal experiences as well. And I should tell you, we actually spent an hour together earlier today on the Leading with Empathy and Allyship podcast. And we talked a lot and it was amazing. And you'll get to check out the podcast eventually. But there were some questions we didn't actually get through. And so I'm excited because I have an opportunity to cover fresh ground with you, Melinda, in this moment. We actually have a mix of people joining us today. I suspect that there are some people on today who have a very in-depth knowledge and awareness of what allyship is. Others on joining us today to celebrate you and your book may be newer in their journeys in understanding allyship. So why don't we actually just start at the fundamentals, at the basics? Could you please give us, as an expert on allyship, could you please give us a definition of allyship and perhaps share a few key principles with us of what allyship is about?
Awesome. Yeah. And I just changed the host view. I don't know if that changes the view for everyone, but feel free to change it back to however you like in the corner, in the top corner. Yeah, allyship is, at its core is empathy in action. It's learning, it's showing empathy, and it's taking action. And what that means, it's often, in the book, I talk about the stages of allyship that people go through. My background is in behavior change and storytelling and culture, and really, how those three are integrated, how we really evolve, how we really create change in our organizations and in our cultures. And so developed a behavioral change model that around allyship to really kind of help people understand, where people are, where their colleagues, where their companies might be along those stages. And it starts, for most of us, it starts with denial. I will say that when I was younger, and even though, I had lots of diverse friends, I still thought that we were in the post-racial society. And it wasn't until I came across a group of Black students at the University of Washington campus where I just, and they were talking about their experiences and what they were going to do about it, that I just, whoa, wait a minute, I'm wrong. And so, most of us start in denial, and the key is to move beyond that. And most people go from denial to being an observer, kind of just testing that idea. Is this a thing? Is this a thing that I should be working on? Is this a thing that is diversity, equity, and inclusion an issue that I should be working to help solve? And then learning is the next step. And then a lot of people get stuck in learning. And that's why one of the reasons why I wrote the book is to get people to take action as an ally first. And, it starts with doing no harm and making sure that we're not harming people through biases and microaggressions. And so a lot of that is learning and then testing new language out. And then it's advocating for people, really stepping up and advocating for them as a champion, as, right. Whether or not they're in the room. And then after advocating, it's really, what can you do to lead the change? What are some ways that you can, be inside your organization, can you start to create change? And then inside your industry, what can you do to create change?
Right. So you touched on this just now, but also earlier on in your comments about language and how language is shifting and is in the inclusion space. I would suggest as a DEI practitioner can be really challenging. It can be a challenging nut to crack. So in the context of allyship and over the last year in particular, and your book could not be more timely. Like if there has ever been a spotlight on the need and the importance for allyship, it is this moment. And in particular, having a concrete guide, like a guidebook on how to behave, how to shift our behaviors, how to use our voice. Your book like hits the nail on the head with respect to that. In this context of allyship and in conversations, there's increased attention being put on the concept of accomplices, advocates and accomplices. Could you just speak to that in the context of allyship? And you mentioned your continuum also, which you've laid out really well in your allyship report, the State of Allyship report. Could you just talk about the difference between an ally, an advocate, and an accomplice?
Yeah, well, to me, they're all different stages along the journey of allyship, right? So that's first and foremost. I consider allies, advocates, and accomplices and activists all to be a form of allyship. As an active allyship is kind of, it's taking those first steps and making sure you're doing no harm and maybe starting to intervene. An advocate is really, taking that next step of putting some personal, professional risk to make a difference, using your power, your influence to create change. And then an accomplice is doing that as well at the system level, breaking the system, breaking the system because they're, we need to, and then rebuilding them. And much needed, definitely much needed. Accomplices are not somebody, not everyone is going to be an accomplice, and that's important to know and acknowledge. And we need people all along that spectrum. And we need accomplices to really rebuild those systems, whether that's through the legal system, legally, whether that is, just dismantling different structures. It's important.
So we'll talk more about allyship, these various concepts, the continuum, and more coming up in the panel that you'll be moderating. So we'll come back to that. But just another moment longer on allyship. Allyship really is, it feels like, is your anchor. You have a TED Talk on allyship. You have a podcast as of today, 54 episodes on allyship. You've written a book. What is it about your personal story, your background, your upbringing, your journey that inspired you to anchor to the concept of allyship? Like why allyship is your anchor?
Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit earlier today too. So if y'all, and maybe somebody on the team could put a link so that people can go watch that episode if they want to learn more too. It's really, allyship is a piece of it. It's empathy is really what drives me, and building empathy and helping people take that empathy into action. And so I personally believe the world needs a lot more empathy. We need to be more empathetic for each other, and it's the lack of empathy, a lack of compassionate empathy is why we have some of the big systemic issues that we have, where from climate change and environmental injustice to workplace disparity to the wealth gap, the health gap. to the institutional systemic discrimination throughout, from our education systems to our healthcare systems to our justice systems to workplace systems and so on. And our financial systems are inequitable. And I really believe that when we have more empathy for each other, when we take action on that empathy, which is allyship, which is advocacy, which is being an accomplice, which is activism, which you and several of us are doing as well. That's when we change that. And so I've been working on this a long time, a few decades, and I believe that that's how we change. That's how we create change in the world.
What is it about your personal story? Like, what was it in your upbringing that you believe pushed you to really understand the value of empathy? Because empathy isn't like, I would be the first to say in my own personal experiences, but also in the interactions, the work that I do, empathy isn't an inherent skill for everyone.
It wasn't for me.
Right. Like it's a very difficult skill, actually, attribute to embody in full. So what is it that caused you to really be like, you know what, the world needs more empathy. I should be focusing on this.
I have been, since I was very young, focused on using my life to create change. And Terry Gibbons is here and says in the chat, Radical Empathy.
Yes.
She has an amazing book. She has so much to say. We did a podcast together, episode together. I started when I was in high school. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a surgeon. I'm going to save people. And then in college, I was really when I started to develop empathy. I wasn't all that empathetic over human, really, when I was younger, which my sister, who is here, can probably attest. And it's a muscle that a lot of us have to build. I was really fortunate to go to college and be able to sample lots of different, she's laughing in the chat, and go to college and sample lots of different courses, understanding. I studied cultural anthropology. I also studied comparative literature. I also dabbled in environmental science and many other things. I was in school for a long time, but really the goal there was to gain all of this knowledge and understanding of different cultures, of different tools to create change. And so it was, and I will say the one thing that I do write about in the book that was really transformative was I had to work all through school, and I did a work study with a psychology in the psychology department on that was using Paul Ekman's facial action coding system, FACS, and it's a way to code different pieces, different muscles in your face to understand the real, genuine emotion that's behind it. So there's so many ways that we fake emotions, and it's understanding, because there's little twitches that you do that actually alert if people are in tuned. Yes.
Right. Like the twitches around your eyes, for example, right.
Mm-hmm. And that study was looking at, if you prime a parent beforehand with here's the emotion that we want you to have going into working with their child on homework, for example, and those different emotions affecting how that child shows up in their homework, how they do their homework, do they do it well? Just those facial, those little muscles in your face can make such a difference in how you're showing empathy, you're showing compassion 100%. For people. And so that most definitely, I used it in documentary filmmaking as an interviewer and continue to use it now.
So there's so many things that what you're sharing in this moment, other stories in the book that really help to highlight like your own personal journey with allyship and how it is that you came to be in a place where you've learned to exercise and grow this muscle, and really important practical strategies for all of us in learning how to move along the continuum as well. Let's just touch on the book for a moment. I'm wondering, you talked earlier about your goals, your hopes for the book. I'm wondering if you could share with us, in writing the book, what surprised you about writing a book? What surprised you as it relates to yourself and your journey? Are there things that happened that you didn't expect would and did transpire? Like what gripped you along the way? What surprised you? What stood out to you?
It is way harder than I thought it was going to be. That's number one. It's way more work than I thought it was going to be. I had to get through a lot of my own kind of inner imposter syndrome, inner kind of feeling that I don't know enough. I mean, I spent decades learning, and yet I still felt like I didn't know enough. And in some ways, we never all know enough about allyship, right? Of course. And I definitely got in my own way a lot. And the little stories that we tell inside our heads that tell us that we're not good enough, that we're not smart enough, that we don't know enough, that, yeah. And then on top of that, I also learned about myself that, last year in many ways was very difficult for a lot of people. And I am still here, and I still have my health and have a job and feel very privileged. And it was one of the hardest years ever, where, we had to we pivoted our business multiple times, didn't know if we were going to survive financially, and literally thought, we're going to have to move, and where and how and all of that. So what I learned was that despite all of that, I can still write a book.
Yes.
If I really sat down and do it. And there's a driving force in me to, despite all of that's going on, despite the anxiety and the depression and all of that, that it's really important to get this out there in the world and creating change. And I learned about my own power and also my own struggle with, the deep-seated trauma that many of us have experienced over our lives, and many times that I've been told I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, right? And a lot of us internalize that. And yes, Karen, there's a special place in imposter syndrome hell for others, and TED speakers. I will say that was a really hard thing too, for the same reason. And Jill, my speaking coach and friend and mentor, also was there with me, and Susan Gear, who's here as well, is there with me, kind of working me through that.
So true. I mean, you're seeing all of the comments in the board. You and I talked about this earlier, and we have over the last year commiserated. I wrote a book that was published a few years ago, and how hard it is to write a book, period. But let me just pause here for a moment here, Melinda, on it's hard to write a book, period, let alone to write a book in the midst of a pandemic, when it is so emotionally taxing. It's very hard to be creative in that moment, let alone in the midst of a racial injustice crisis, let alone with business challenges and having to pivot and all of what you have experienced over the last year. And yet, despite all of that, your book is excellent. Like as I have said to you many times, yes, round of applause again for Melinda. Your book is truly excellent. I read a lot of books in the DEI space. And when I read your manuscript, one of the first things I said to you was, finally, a book that we can put out there with confidence, that isn't surface level, isn't fluffy. It's practical, it's data driven. It's truly excellent. I'm so excited about your book for myriad reasons. Okay, one fun thing that I want to talk about before we turn to the panel and dig deep into allyship, and Melinda, I'll invite you to introduce our panel because you'll be moderating. One fun thing. So in the chat board, how many of you follow Melinda on Instagram? Like, do you follow Melinda? Just kind of say a yes. And if your answer is no, then you should follow Melinda immediately on Instagram. I think it's Change Catalyst. I follow Melinda on Instagram, which means that we're real friends. So her and I have banter on Insta all the time. We're constantly commenting on each other's stories. And one of the things that I have noticed, and we've talked about this over the last year as friends as well, is that your motorcycling trips and adventures were a real outlet for you, and always are, but over the last year, I'm wondering if you could just tell us. And I know someone threw up a comment about motorcycling +1. So there's fellow motorcycling fans on today. What is it about motorcycling that calls to you, that grips your heart, and how did motorcycling help you through this book experience?
Well, when you do this work, which several of my colleagues here do this work daily as well, can attest, diversity, equity, inclusion work, it can be really toxic, can be really hard on your spirit, your soul, your brain, and also your body, because when you're constantly working with people who are new to this work, you're experiencing microaggressions regularly, you're experiencing that toxicity, and have to kind of move through your body. And also it can conjure up some of your past traumatic experiences as well. And so it can sit in your body if you're not careful, and which when I first started doing this work, it did. I didn't work on it enough. But Ritu, you and I both do yoga and meditation, and that can make a big difference. And kind of moving for meditation is moving it out of the space so that you can have it back, that you own it back, right? And then also yoga is moving it through your body. And I learned a lot about this from Michael Thomas, who's an attorney and does this work, and has also studied trauma and in your body. And so the other piece is motorcycling, and when I first met Wayne and we were dating, he had a motorcycle, and I rode on the back of his motorcycle. And then later I was, riding scooters. There's a scooter app here, like scooters like this, not like the little,
right.
Y'all know the difference. And Wayne we were talking about Wayne getting a motorcycle, and I was like, I want a motorcycle. And then we kind of researched it, and we both got motorcycles. But before I took a class, of course, to learn how to do it. And I would say that it has saved us in so many ways. Over the weekends, we get out in nature, because we live in the heart of the city, and I love living in the city, but it's really important also to get into nature. And I'm finding that somebody asked earlier in the chat, Jeff, how did I find focus? And a lot of it was getting out in nature. A lot of it was getting in the sun, because we live in San Francisco in the fog. So it was getting out in the sun, getting out and being in fresh air and surrounded by trees. And motorcycling is a lot of kind of moving your whole body, moving your whole self through curves, through changes. And a lot of it is trusting yourself to do that. A lot of it is, there's so many different things that you have to do. Every piece of your body is doing something different so that you are staying alive, right? And going around those curves. And so it's very meditative, and also gets us out into nature. And Wayne and I do it together. And so, we're literally constantly talking into each other's ears.
Oh my God, I love that. Like you can have like it built in, like headsets. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so great. Well, I encourage all of you again to follow Melinda so you can check out her stories and her adventures. And the scenery is so beautiful. The places you go to just look incredible. And then also you look really badass doing it. Like if anything, it just makes for really good pictures, like really makes for great pictures. You look so badass and hot doing it. So good for you. Good on you, Melinda. Okay. We're about to turn to the panel. I'm going to hand the reins to Melinda to introduce the panel and what we'll be doing on the panel. But before I do that, I just wanted to share on a personal note. having had a book come out a few years ago, that writing a book is so difficult. It's so important to have people's support of authors. And I just wanted to throw in a plug because I know what happens behind the scenes. There are two really important things that you can do to support Melinda right now. The first thing is to buy her book, and in particular, buy it this week and have as many people buy her book this week as possible so that we can make it an Amazon bestseller and push the sales. And then the second most important thing that you can do to support Melinda with the book is to write a review on Amazon, because love it or hate it, algorithms, and yet I could go on, and Goodreads, like book reviews actually really make a difference in having the, Steve, yes, Goodreads, having authors' books supported and profiled. And so those are two things you can be doing this week. And I just wanted to throw that out there, that we can all come together to support Melinda in this way. So with that being said, Melinda, I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, you're welcome. Bless. No, thank you for putting this amazing piece of work out there. So turning it to you to kick off our panel.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, you all know Ritu, so she needs no introduction. I think you introduced yourself. Yeah,
I did.
Okay. So I want to invite Tiffany and Rachel to join me, as well as Wayne. Hi. So Tiffany and I met, well, I think we met via social media and or email, and then we finally met in person maybe a year after that, something like that, because you were in New York and I was here. And Tiffany runs an amazing organization called Diversibility, and you all need to check it out and support it. She does some really amazing advocacy and activist work in that space, in the space of creating change and creating inclusion for people with disabilities. And I have learned a ton from her. And then, and by the way, these are all dear friends of mine. I'm so happy to have you all here. So Rachel Williams is, we go back to early 2015, I think, maybe late 2014, early 2015, where we sat in a booth and at Yelp and had discussions about the state of tech and how we were going to solve them together, right? And I think when we had that conversation, we thought by this point we would have solved it. Well, I mean, we have it in our head, solved it, but there's a whole, all the people that need to change in order to make that happen, right?
Mm-hmm. So good.
Yeah. And then Wayne Sutton, who is my husband, partner, best friend, greatest ally, all of the things, and is my co-founder at Change Catalyst, and also the founder of the Icon Project, and does incredible things, and has for his entire life. So thank you all for being here. Yeah, and celebrating with me, and I for all of you, I want this to be a interactive thing. So while I'm going to ask our panelists to verbally talk about their experiences, I'm going to ask you all to share yours in the chat too, because I want to know, and I would love to have this be a community conversation. Cool. So one thing we should do just really quickly for anybody who is blind or low vision and or on the phone and can't see us, if we could just really quickly go around and just describe ourselves. So I'm a white woman with long red hair, black and white glasses, and I have a turquoise-ish shirt on, sleeveless shirt on. And Ritu already did, so Rachel?
All right. Dark chocolate brown woman with long black hair. Got some glasses on and a cute pink Oxford shirt so I can pop my collar.
Tiffany?
Hi, everyone. Tiffany Yu, pronoun she, her, and I am a Taiwanese American woman with very long black pandemic hair that I have learned how to curl with one hand because one of my arms is paralyzed, which you can't see. And I am wearing a navy blue sweatshirt that I'm very proud of. And it says, disability repeated a bunch of times is not a bad word. And we're actually doing just a small fundraising campaign for Diversability right now with this message. If anyone wants to be a walking billboard with me, I will, shameless plug, put a link to it in the chat as well.
Count me in, sister.
Me too.
Mhm.
Me too.
Mhm. Maybe somebody on the team can investigate that and put that on there. Thank you. Me.
Humans. Wayne Sutton. I am a pecan brown skin,
Oh.
black African man, wearing black glasses, a black t-shirt with brown eyes, with white earpods in my ear, standing up on the Zoom. Hi.
Awesome. So I just have a few questions. And the first is, what does allyship mean to you? What does allyship mean to you? Why is it important?
You gonna call on us?
I'm not. This is a community conversation where you all take initiative and say it when you feel it.
Okay, so since I opened my big mouth, let's see. Allyship to me means safety, means amplification. It means that I have a partner or someone looking out for me in the room when I'm not in the room. It's been so important in my life. I didn't even have the word for it before. I was calling it a sponsor, which I think, on some levels there is sponsorship, but I think the action of sponsorship is allyship. I think, the two go hand in hand. And I'm so grateful to the allies who have stepped up to correct someone or to defend me or to amplify something I've said or just make a path and create a path for me. So it means safety. And when I feel safe, then I can be authentic. I can give the brilliance that's rumbling around in my head. The imposter syndrome seems to decrease. And, I think companies ultimately get the best out of me. So allyship means a lot.
This is Tiffany. I will amplify both what Melinda said in terms of empathy and action. And I can't wait to share my little examples, but I'll wait to do that. And what Rachel said in terms of safety. But I will also add, for me, it is the idea of what it truly feels like to be seen. And I think that can mean a lot of different things to people. But for me, it's, can I be validated in my experience, even if you don't understand it?
Mm-hmm.
Without, and this is where the safety comes in, without fear of retribution or retaliation, or it's just, can I just be who I am without fear?
I would say that what Tiffany just shared really resonates for me as well, resonates with me. I was thinking about allyship from the perspective of how do I make others feel based on how I act and what I say and what my nonverbal communication is like in your midst and the words I use. But on the receiving end, for me, when I am experiencing allyship, it goes back to, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel honored, I feel like you see the humanity in me because you understand the humanity in you and the importance of creating a world where we can all honor each other. I think that is so important and really stands out to me as it relates to what allyship is about.
Well,
This
for
is
me,
Tiffany. Oh,
go ahead, Tiffany.
I just wanted to add one other thing. So all of us are on this learning journey, and actually, Ritu, what came up when you reflected back to me what I said is that I think many of us are moving to understand that it's really not about the intention, it's about the impact, right?
Mhm.
And then focusing on that impact, like how do other people feel when they're around you? Like that is that act of allyship.
Yes. You know, it's interesting because as human beings, we are animals. And I think we forget that because like we're so sophisticated because we have Zoom and iPhone and Uber and yada, yada. But we're animals at the end of the day. And as animals, we're governed by our nervous systems. And Melinda, like you would know this so profoundly from all of your yoga and mindfulness work as well, that our nervous systems deeply desire to co-regulate with other people. And we want to feel good in people's midst. Like we want to feel safe, as has been shared. And allyship, through our actions, we help other people's nervous systems calm and settle and feel and flow so that they can best we can best think and share and be authentic, and we can synthesize information more accurately, and we can exercise compassion and empathy. Like all of this goes back to our nervous systems and how we feel and others feel based on the acts of allyship that are around us.
Yeah, I'm gonna say allyship means to me like first, what does the book say? but but plus one of what everyone has said, but you know, and to me it's like allyship means like it's something super simple, but it's doing the right thing. But doing the right thing, being mindful of your own safety, your own mind, your own state of being, right? Like how are you doing the right thing, trying to correct injustice, trying to help someone out, trying to support someone, trying to advocate on someone's behalf, trying to, go back to what Melinda said a lot about empathy, like whether it's workplace environment, whether it's walking down the street, whether it's in the store, whether it's like, police violence or racial injustice, or, how can you, in that moment, being mindful of your own well-being and safety, as others have said, be an ally, or even being mindful of taking risk and being an ally for someone in that moment to correct any type of wrong injustices happening in the world.
You all are amazing. We have so many people who are doing this work here on this call. Would you please drop in the chat? I mean, Karen, what does allyship mean to you? Jennifer, what does allyship mean to you? Julie, Cynthia, Natalia, all of you are working on this amazing work, doing amazing work. For Max, I see you. What does allyship mean to each of you? I would love to know. And I think it would be really powerful to know. And anybody else chime in. I just kind of called out my colleagues. Mm-hmm. And as you're thinking, and Lisa, I see you here too. So many folks that are doing this work. Yeah, Cynthia, having somebody's back, especially when they're not around. Yeah. Joining any capital I have, social, professional capital, with someone else for the purpose of building greater equity. Awesome. Karen, using our position of privilege to take action and open career doors, disrupt the status quo of racism, sexism, or other isms that are happening in our workplace. Yeah, empathy and action. Lisa, thank you. And Toki, I see you too. Natalia, honoring, centering, and building up marginalized and underrepresented people to ensure success, thriving, and that voices are heard and defended. Brian, taking the struggle on as our own and standing up and speaking up even when it's hard. Steve, helping make connections and endorsing. Awesome. Awesome. Continue. I'm going to ask the next question, but yeah, love it. Thank you for sharing. So, Tiffany, I know you already have one in your head, so I might count on you for this next one because you already said, when has an ally really stepped up for you? Give us a story. Tell the story. How did an ally impact your life?
Yeah, this is Tiffany. I'll share 2 examples. So one doesn't really have a resolution yet, but and then the other is a fun story that I'll share. So we have microaggressions, but I think we also have micro inclusions. And so when I think about allyship and how it is kind of manifesting, or the way that is the most prevalent for me right now, it is this empathy in action for people understanding that when I step outside and someone says, go back to where you came from, that pattern interrupt. And I see Karen here, and she has this question, what makes you think that? So being able to witness something like something microaggressive like that, being able to step in and do something about it. But having that empathy to understand that when I walk outside, I feel a level of a lack of safety that maybe Wayne, when Wayne steps outside, may feel a lack of safety, but in a different way. And it's kind of like being able to distinguish that. So that's kind of the first thing that I was thinking about when I thought about the answer to that question. But the other one I wanted to share, and I'm just smiling because it might be relevant or it might not be relevant. And so for people who are new to my work, I do a lot of work in the disability space, and I come into this work based on my own lived experience of having acquired a disability at the age of 9 as a result of a car accident. So one of my arms is paralyzed. And pre-pandemic, we always had these like dinner events and stuff, and my background was in finance, and networking dinners were a big thing. And so for me, what I actually found the most difficult about that environment is I didn't know how to pick my bread off of the bread basket when I came out. I didn't know how to cut my chicken or cut my steak, and I apologize to the vegetarians or the vegans when I came out. And so I would actually spend more time thinking about the logistics of how to eat my food rather than engage in the actual conversation that was happening. And I wanted to bring that up because one of the bigger professional opportunities that I've had in this work is I had the opportunity to go to Davos a couple of years ago, which is, you have a lot of CEOs and presidents and leaders in academia and social and civil society. And I was at this dinner I think it was called Human by Design, and it was talking about human-centered design. And I happened to be sitting at a table that was being facilitated by will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas. And so I'm sitting next to him totally by accident, and the chicken comes out, or whatever the meat dish is. And I'm literally just sitting there, like looking at it, like holding a knife to like try and just look like I'm trying to navigate it. And will.i.am sees what's happening, and he literally he's still facilitating the conversation. He pulls my plate over to his, and he literally just cuts my meat, conversation's still going, and then he pushes the plate back over to me. And I have shared this story publicly, so if anyone knows will.i.am, I did tell him thank you. He probably doesn't remember, but it's something so small like that for him, cutting meat during an entree course probably doesn't mean that much. But for someone like me who has had to go to so many dinner events like that, even thinking about a buffet event, where there's not enough table space to like hold my plate. For me, that was such a beautiful display of, and Melinda and I have talked about like, what does non-performative allyship actually look like? And for me, it's no one's looking for some award at the end of the day that, he's not going around telling people that he cut my meat. I'm going around as the recipient of it, telling everyone how literally just something so small like that can be so meaningful. So I know I wanted to bring it up because I still think that one day we will return to dinners, and that's still a part of my own professional journey, right? Is this networking environment, even though it didn't happen, in a workplace environment. But I wanted to like bring that up as an example because it's all it's all still part of this like one life that I'm experiencing. And I wanted to add one last point on that, which is I recently met up with a friend who, was having a hard time kind of thinking about what allyship looks like on the accomplice level, right? Like, what does it look like to actually disrupt the whole system? What does it look like to rebuild it equitably? And what I said to him is, we can spend time talking about those larger issues, but what I'm hoping you take away from this is maybe I'm not going to convince you what that roadmap to equity looks like, but can you understand that when we're having dinner together, I might need someone to help me cut my meat?
Thank you for sharing that.
I'll go. Melinda, we was talking about this last night. We was talking about Steve, who was watching. I think Steve's still here from Goodreads. That Steve was one of my very first allies when I moved to San Francisco. When I came to Silicon Valley first in 2011, I was running an accelerator, and we had some conflict, founder conflict, and we needed a different co-working space to work out of for our founders. And Steve heard of us. He saw what we were doing on social media, and he was like, he didn't know us from. It's not like we had dinner or had meetings, and like got to know Steve well. And he was like, "Y'all need a place to come work for your founders. Come use our space where we at." And it was about, I think about 10 or 15 of us. And this was back in 2011. And so you think there was a lack of diversity in tech now. Oh. In 2011, there was a real lack of diversity. So opened his door and let 10, Black and brown founders, 10 or 15 of us in the co-working in his office space in downtown San Francisco, and that was a thing of allyship and support that I'll just never forget. The other thing of allyship, something happened more recently, is that we've seen a lot of people step up and I say become, I don't want to use any word of slang, current terms people are using now, but people develop more empathy or became more aware or guilt or decided they want to impact humans doing the work around equity, inclusion, or underrepresented people in tech. And last year, Brad Fell reached out to me and say, I've seen the work you've been doing for years. I want to support your work, and with a grant for the ICON project to work around mental health. And so he did that last year. So we talk a lot about allyship in terms of actions. Money is action also. And so that was a great support that helped us out in getting ICON project relaunched. So that was just two examples. I see Steve there. Appreciate you, Steve.
Hey, Wayne. That was great to hear. It was awesome meeting you in those early days, and we had a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you.
It's great to be here now, and I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you, Steve.
And review it on Goodreads, of course.
Of course, yes. If y'all don't know, that's where Steve is now. Awesome. What about you, Rachel?
I think you've probably heard this story, so hopefully there's somebody out there who hasn't, but the COO of Yelp really showed me early in my work what allyship was. When I got the call to rejoin Yelp to be their first head of diversity and inclusion, I was holding meetings with executives, no idea what we're going to talk about. It ended up being really helpful that we were talking about demographic numbers, and we were talking about latest research from Harvard or Stanford or somewhere. And then I would also share with them story time. But in the beginning, of course, this is 2014, folks really weren't knocking at my D&I door to come to these meetings. I think at that time it felt more punitive for a lot of folks. It felt, yeah, I'll leave it there. And so I had a chat with him about kind of my difficulties in getting executives to show up. I didn't want to make it mandatory because I knew the challenges around making anything mandatory in this work and the backlash that happens. And he knew the power he had. And I think that's a part of allyship, understanding your privilege in the context. And he knew his privilege in the context, that he was the COO of the company. People feared him and loved him. He had this kind of weird energy about that. And he told me, I'm going to show up to your meetings and I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to be present. And I kind of was like, wait, you need to say something. But I understand he didn't need to say anything. Him just showing up and being present, it drew all the leaders, because they're like, oh, Jeff's in that meeting? Jeff's coming? Jeff's there? If Jeff's there, then I'm there. And like, it started to be like, Rachel, you didn't send me an invite. And I'm like, I actually sent an invite to everybody. And over time, every single leader was coming to that meeting and having rich discussion around DEI. And Jeff really never said a word, honestly. He just knew that his presence, he lent me his presence, he lent me his influence. And that level of allyship, I hope to lend to someone else someday.
Melinda, would you like me to share?
I would love for you to share.
Well, Rachel, your story really resonates with me because I had something similar but different happen when I started my business 11 years ago. And so just by way of background, I'm actually a lawyer by training, and I practiced law for a few years, really hated it for myriad reasons, which I'm sure you've heard all about as it relates to the practice of law. Hello. And, but then I did HR for lawyers. So I worked for a large international firm where I was the HR leader on the lawyer side. I did that for several years. And along the journey of doing that HR work, having a front row seat to how inequities manifest in the legal profession, I really deeply became interested in doing DEI work. This is now over 11 years ago. And I decided I had to pull myself out of the legal profession, such a silo. So I decided to do an executive MBA. And at the tail end of the executive MBA, I ultimately left my firm to start my own consulting firm. But I was new, I was fresh, I was green. I needed to build a profile and name for myself. And there was an executive program at the University of Toronto at the business school, Rotman School of Management. And I wanted to teach desperately in that executive program because I knew it'd be great for my brand and profile and all of that. And one of my professors was connected with the program, a white man. And I was quite vocal in the classes I had with him. But anyhow, I approached him and said, I'd love to figure out how I can teach in the executive program. And long story short, he created a spot for me. He never said, I'm creating this spot because you're a woman or you're a woman of color from a religious minority group and we need you. But he created a spot despite all of the resistance to bring in an external nobody into the program to have me teach. And I taught in the program for 3 years. All the way along, he was an ally for me. And it had a profound impact on my career because the moment I said I'm teaching at the Rotman School of Management, people were like, oh, she must be legitimate, as opposed to everything else that I was doing to exhibit my excellence. Fine. Anywho, so that was profound. And I think about that moment often as it relates to allyship. I'm also going to throw out there, though, Melinda, for me, and I mean, I'm mindful of, like you talked about trauma earlier, like I'm very mindful of how I have internalized racism and racial trauma lives in my body. I do a lot of work around it, like in the work that I teach and all the stuff I do online. I'm constantly talking about healing the racial trauma that we all possess as people of color, people who are Indigenous in the face of white supremacy. And I would say to you, clear as a bell, moments of allyship stand out for me. But also what continues to stand out are the moments where I needed an ally and I didn't have one. And like those moments haunt me. They continue with me despite me doing my work, they're always there. But at the same time, I'm able to use those moments as a way for me to exercise empathy for others, to understand how I, through my actions, can help other people feel safe and at ease. And like that, Tiffany, your example of Will I Am is so beautiful. Like, it's a really good example of how someone is mindfully paying attention to the whole environment. So they're leading a conversation. He's leading a conversation. He's taking in information, he's guiding, but he's also got his eyes on everyone in the room. So he's empathetically taking in people's energy that he knows to do this. When we have had enough lived experience with a lack of allyship, it helps us to tune in and put ourselves into the shoes of others so that we can see, I should be cutting people's chicken. Going forward, let the takeaway, everyone, be after today, cut other people's chicken. Okay, that's the soundbite of this launch party. Start cutting chicken.
Oh, we could talk for hours and we are over time, but I want to ask one final question. And if you could just share 3 words in this one. I know that's a challenge for all of us because we all do this work and we're in it. So what do you think about when you are working to be a good ally for each other? And we've established chicken. So what else? 3 words. What do you think about when you really are working to be a good ally?
Recognize my privilege.
Oh, yes. Oh,
It is.
I'm going to throw out there, I am love. And the reason being, I cannot love others unless I love myself.
Yes, I think about that often. Love is one of mine too. Yeah.
This is Tiffany. Those are not my 3 words.
That'll be done. That's it.
I can't distill it down to 3 words, but, or actually I can. Mistakes equals growth.
That's awesome.
Good one. Wayne. Word to Wayne.
You know, there's an introvert mind over just thinking.
I know. I saw it. I saw it. It was like a little computer going.
I was like thinking, wait, what's the question? I was like, oh wow, yeah, you know, plus one, you know, like what Melinda was saying earlier. I think of empathy. Think of you know, safety is a big one for me, and I'll say the other word, it's a hyphen, but it sounds like 2 words: self-awareness. You know, so and I think that's my big words, because you have to be self-aware of what's happening, the why in the moment, what's going on, processing that. If you can't in that moment, am I safe to operate? Am I safe to, take action right here for me or the other person? Other people I'm trying to be, have empathy towards. And then try to have empathy, and then from there, take action, as Melinda says in the book. So that's what I try to do.
And Michael and Michael, by the way, I did mention you earlier and your work on what I've learned from you around trauma and the body and all of that. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah. And I love what you said in the chat, lead with vulnerability. Yeah. Well, thank you all. And anybody else? Yes, Julie, thank you. See, care, act. Awesome. Anybody else, please get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's okay, 4 words, so I'll give you one. Cool. We could talk for hours, you all. We have talked for hours, and each of you has been an ally for me in lots of different ways throughout my knowing you. So I deeply appreciate all of you. being here today, doing what you do, being an ally for me, and helping make the world a better place. Yeah.
Oh, bless Melinda. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the book. Yes, Rachel, so good. Thank you. So, in fact, let's take a moment. Let's all throw up our books, buy a copy, gift a copy, review the book, spread the good word, post about the book, everything you can to support Melinda in this moment and this great work. So thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Wayne, so much for joining Melinda and myself for this panel. We're very, very grateful. And thank you all for your beautiful comments in the chat board. In a moment, we are going to turn to the toast. And so we will be bringing Wayne back on to lead our toast. So again, if you haven't already done so, you want to grab your beverage of choice. But speaking of allyship, Melinda, you touched on this. There were a lot of people who have contributed to your work, to this book. And I'd love to invite you to take a moment to thank people, thank anyone who has supported you that you want to draw attention to in this moment for their contributions. And then we will turn to our moment for our toast to you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm just going to acknowledge there's a few pages of acknowledgements in the book. And so I'm not going to go through all of the amazing people that have but I do want to recognize some of the folks that are here. First, my team. So Wayne and Renzo, where are you? There you are. Yeah, actually, raise your hand. Yeah, that'd be cool. Renzo, Araya, Christina, and Marva's here as well. I think, and I'm also going to recognize Antonia. And Antonia has definitely helped me in the wee hours of the morning get that manuscript in because I have pages and pages of endnotes and just research that was done, and she helped me through that. Yes, and I think Juliet, is Juliet still here? Yeah, I think Juliet may have left, and we had some. Oh yeah, there you are. You are here, and I think we had some other team members that came and had to leave, but also some of my coaches and mentors are here. Susan, yeah, and is Jill still here? She might have had to leave. Okay, and then Kelly, are you here? I think she's here, but not on video, so you might not see her on your screen. Also, there's a ton of colleagues that are doing this work daily and have been doing this work since I've been doing this work, and have been there right beside me and doing a lot of this work. So Natalia, who has supported us in so many different ways, Jennifer Brown, Karen just left, but she was here, Michael Thomas, Cynthia Overton, Terry Givens, Denise Cardozo, Max Major is here. I think Angel was here for a bit. Luna was here. I think I'm probably missing a few of y'all. Lisa, I see you. Jeff, I know you're working on this too in a different way. Awesome. And then also some of our clients and friends who have supported us over the years. Daniel, I see you doing this work and also working with us along the way, and Antonia now as well, right? Now that you're in a different role. Julie, of course, Julie is here as well too. And then Julie Elberfeld has done amazing work over the years and continues to do so too. And then I do have family here as well. My sister, Lori, who y'all don't get to see my family, so this is kind of cool. My sister is here. Are you on camera? I don't see you on camera. And then my parents are here, and I believe, are they still here? Did y'all leave? Oh no, you're still there. You're just not on camera. Okay, cool. Jean and John and my mom and her sister, my aunt. I didn't know they were going to be in the same room together, but there they are on screen. Scroll through. They look very much alike at this moment. And then. And I also want to recognize, I'm not sure if Robin is still here, but Jewel, you're not interpreting right now. So I just wanted to say a thank you to you too, Jewel and Robin from Interpreter Now, who have been amazing partners with us over the last year and a half. And sometimes this work is, mutual allyship too, is working together to, make change together. So yeah. And there's lots more folks on this call that I love dearly, and I appreciate you and appreciate you being here too. But and if I'm missing anybody, I apologize. So, but thank you all for being there over the years. Oh, there you are, Jill. You are here. I see you. So thank you everybody for being here, for celebrating this, and I will turn it back over to you, Ritu.
So good. Now, speaking of celebrating, this is the moment where we get to celebrate you. And I'm going to invite Wayne to lead the toast. But if you haven't already grabbed your beverage of choice, please run and grab it now. I should tell you, I thought of you, Melinda, as I pulled out this wine glass and I poured kombucha into it. I've never asked you about this, but I suspect you're a kombucha fan. Are you?
I like kombucha. I don't drink it a lot. I don't, but I like it.
Well,
yes.
Next time you drink kombucha, everyone, make sure you do it from a wine glass because it makes it so much more jazzy.
I love it. It's
right?
Awesome.
This is the best.
Yes.
So, Wayne, I'm going to turn it over to you, Wayne, again, being Melinda's partner in life, partner in work, partner in motorcycling, and so much more. Over to you to lead the toast.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you. +1 to what Melinda said, and thank you all the humans for being here. And this toast is to Melinda Briana Epler, my friend, my love, my wife, and now author. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Cheers, everybody.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Wayne, for leading that beautiful toast. And now I'm going to throw out there that this is the time for all of us to recognize you. And so everyone, I am going to just take a few moments to, first of all, invite you in the chat board to share some words of inspiration with Melinda, share some love with Melinda, share perhaps what her work, what her book, what her TED Talk has meant to you, what her spirit has meant to you. If there are any words that you want to express for Melinda in this moment, now is your time to do it on the chat board. But also, if anyone wants to unmute their mic and share anything verbally, we'd love to hear it as well. We'd love to have you share your comments. And so I invite you to unmute your mic and I can spotlight you, bring you up on the screen so that you can share a few words with lovely Melinda. So I see the comment from Jill, commenting that she appreciates your leadership, wisdom, and humor. Congratulations, Melinda. I'm sure so many feel the same. Is there anyone who would like to share anything verbally, as in like come on, unmute their mic and share? Cynthia, I see you. I see you raising your hands. I'm going to bring you on.
Okay, so just very quickly, I first met Melinda and Wayne. I can't even remember what year it was, but I really, really, really wanted to break into diversity and inclusion in the tech industry. I was living in DC at the time, and I reached out to them cold, and they responded and set up a meeting. I came out here, met with them, pitched an idea in terms of a panel for an upcoming conference. They said, great. And just meeting with them, I think that it was a thing of where being on the East Coast, it was just hard to connect with people. So many emails went, ignored or unresponded to. And for them to be so responsive and supportive just really gave me the confidence and the drive that I needed to continue to pursue this career pivot, which I really, of course, appreciate. And I attribute that in large part to, where I've gotten to today at the Cape War Center. So I really, really, really appreciate you, Melinda and Wayne. I love you both. And I'm just so happy to see the success that you all have experienced. And congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Oh, bless. Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing such beautiful words. I hope you're taking this in, Melinda. So much love for you on the board as well. So many beautiful comments being posted on the board. Would anyone else like to share anything verbally? Want to unmute your mic and share any comments?
I would love to. Just say thank you so much to Melinda and to Wayne as well. But thank you, Melinda, for all the time. Oh, my dog is making a cameo. All the time that you spent teaching me, sharing your wisdom with me, believing in me, pushing me to pursue what I felt most passionate about. Thank you for that. And thank you for the opportunities that you have afforded me that I got while working with you and with Change Catalyst. And also, thank you so much for letting me help you with this book. I mean, like being part of the editing process, although we did spend time, in the wee hours of the morning against deadlines, which was stressful. It gave me the opportunity to read this book like from back to front and front to back, like several times. And I learned so much. Like I thought I had learned so much from you, and I learned even more from you in doing this. So, when I say on LinkedIn, everybody, your Christmas list, your holiday lists, like I've got you covered. Like get this book. I really mean it. It's a wonderful resource. It's a practical resource, and it has been written and created by a wonderful human being. Thank you, Melinda, so much for putting this out into the world.
Thanks, Antonia.
Oh, bless. Thank you, Antonia, for sharing. And I'm taking a look in the board, like so many people commenting, Melinda, about your courage, your passion, and you being an inspiration. I think that as you can see here, there is so much love for you and the work that you do and how inspiring you are. Is there anyone else who would like to share before I make my final remarks and then turn the floor to Melinda to officially wind down? Anyone else would like to share? Okay, well, Melinda, first of all, on a personal note, I am so grateful to know you. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to collaborate with you, share ideas, and frankly, just yuck it up with you. You have been such an amazing soul for me over the last year in terms of us checking in with each other and chatting about your book journey and this difficult pandemic journey and more. And thank you for inviting me to participate on this very special day with you. I'm so grateful. And on behalf of everyone joining today, everyone on the board who's commenting, and again, so many themes of love and appreciation for who you are and the inspiration, on behalf of the 2.5 million people who have watched your TED Talk, and let that grow to another 2.5 million. In fact, let it grow to 25 million, 25 bazillion people. Let the whole world intake your TED Talk. And most importantly, in this moment, your book, because again, and if you know me, I just don't blow sunshine just like that. This is actually truly an excellent piece of work, and it is filled with excellent strategies for change. And at a time and moment when our world needs this more than ever before, we need your book. We need you. We need your messaging. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. We wish you all the best with this book's journey. And we are going to be here to support you all along the way. We're going to post about you. We're going to post about the book. We're going to add it to our resource list, all of us DEI practitioners. We're going to tell our clients to buy the book. We're our family members. Hello, allyship in the family. Let's do a podcast on that. How to use allyship to disrupt family structures and all of that. So your book is going to be omnipresent holiday gifts, the volley gifts. Like let me tell you, allyship is going to be just coming out of all different angles. Okay. So thank you for all of your work. Thank you to all of you for joining. I am now going to turn the floor officially over to you, Melinda, for the final words and to wind down. So thank you.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you, everyone. I mean, that means a lot. And I teared up multiple times. And, sometimes this work that we do, which I'm sure many of you can have experienced as well, can feel lonely. It can feel like it's hard work, and there's not a lot of acknowledgement in it. And so when that acknowledgement comes, soaking it in, and I will soak it in. And I know Susan's going to tell me to soak it in. My coach is going to tell me to soak it in. I'm going to keep all the things in the chat too and look at them when it gets hard. So thank you all for that, for this moment, and for celebrating it with me, and for supporting this and sharing it. Yes, please do share it. Please review it on Amazon, on Goodreads, on whatever platform, in your local independent bookstore, wherever. Please review it if you like it. If you don't, maybe, but yeah, please share it, review it, and let me know how you feel about it. Let me know what you think about it. Thank you, Madeline. Here's to my soaking, taking it in. Let me know how you feel about it too. And it's not perfect, so if there's anything missing that you think should go in the next book, like, let me know too. Because I did realize that I love doing this. I love writing, despite how hard it was, and will continue. So thank you all for being here, for celebrating, for being you, for doing all that you do, for being an ally, and appreciate you. Yes. Good to see you, Tina. Hi. Yes, Daniel. Hi. Love you all. Bye. Thank you. Hello, Cisco.